Good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's Omaha Table Talk. My name is Dominic Green. I use he, him, his pronouns and am the Director of Programs and Faculty at Inclusive Communities. Before we start tonight's conversation, I would like to acknowledge the traditional homelands of the Native and Indigenous people who lived and took care of the land that most of us gather on tonight, that belong to the Omaha, Ponca, Pawnee, Oto, Missouri, Sante Dakota Sioux, Kansas, Iowa, Cheyenne, and Winnebago people. We honor with gratitude and pay our respects to all Native and Indigenous people. Omaha Table Talks, and as we've referred to them as OTTs, were initially recreated in Omaha in 2003 by the Social Justice Advisory Committee of Catholic Charities Omaha. And in 2012, Inclusive Communities acquired OTTs and shifted them to a larger public discussion over comfort food. Just last spring, we partnered with the Nebraska Asian American Leadership Alliance group to start the Asian American Pacific Islander, or AAPI Table Talk series, which is tonight's conversation. And that is to have a focused conversation around AAPI topics and issues and how we as a community can come together around them. Now, due to COVID-19, we have shifted to continue to hold all of these events over Zoom, and we welcome you to have a snack or food and drink during the discussion tonight. We are always looking forward to ways on how we can grow and get better, and so invite you to fill out our evaluation link that will be posted at the end of tonight's conversation. I'd like to thank at this time our sponsors, Rohrer Foundation, Cox Communications, and American Family Insurance for allowing for these events to happen. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Candace Freeman, for a little housekeeping.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Candace Freeman. I am a program partner at Inclusive Communities, and my pronouns are she, hers. I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping things with all of you before we kind of start our breakout conversation or panel discussion and then our breakout conversations. So let me get this. Sorry, I'm having some internet issues, so everything is lagging today. So first, just some virtual agreements. We ask that if you can remain on camera as much as possible. Since we have moved these conversations to a kind of virtual space, we would love to see your face while we're having these discussions, but we fully understand that life is happening around you. So if you are unable to be on screen, that is okay. We're just happy you're with us in this space today. Keep your microphone on, keep your microphone muted, sorry, just so we don't pick up any background noise. We want to hear your thoughts and we will provide space and time for that in this conversation today, but when you are not speaking, please just stay on mute so we can hear all the awesomeness that's going to happen. You have already been notified that this conversation will be recorded. The only portions that will be recorded will be our panel portion and our share outs. We will not record the breakout conversations that you all have in the rooms with each other, but I did just want to make you aware that that recording will be happening. Remain engaged if you can. This is a dialogue, this is a conversation. We need you to kind of help us in this process. So when we have provided that time and space for you to kind of engage with others, use that time to kind of explore the curiosity and learn and grow with each other. Feel free to raise your hand when you are off camera. If you don't feel comfortable typing things in the chat or unmuting yourself to speak, Dominic will be keeping an eye on our chat. So if there are any questions or anything that arise, we will make sure that we insert those in times that we have. Utilize all the chat functions with that. So chat, use the functions. Maybe something was said that you love, put up a heart. Do whatever you feel is necessary in this space and engage with us. And then we also ask, lastly, if you will update your name. We want to refer to you in the ways that you would like to be referred. So we would ask at this time if you could click on those three little dots in your Brady Bunch square and update your pronouns, please. And last but not least, let's do some community agreements. So one speaker, one mic. When one person is speaking, another can't. In Zoom, it is an awesome function. If someone tries to speak, you will talk over. So just yield the space if someone is speaking and provide that time for them to pick up the conversation. Speak your truth. Speak what is your experience and talk about your own lived experience. In this space, we want to hear about everybody's lived experience and perspective. That's how we're going to learn and grow. Vegas twist. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Same thing is here. We want you to take all of the learning and knowledge with you, but we want to provide some ambiguity and some privacy. Let's say that, some privacy. So we don't want to say people's names and job titles or where they work, but take those nuggets of information with you to share with everybody in your space. Keep an open mind, welcome curiosity. There might be some new concepts that are going to be talked about today, and we invite you to kind of open that door to explore some more thinking. And last but not least, be respectful. In this space, we all want to respect each other and just have a good time and engaging in conversation and dialogue. That, I believe, is all. Oh, one more thing. We are, I'm sure you see, Jamie, we have enabled closed captioning if you need it, should you need it. We also do have 2 ASL interpreters on today, Jamie and Libby. Jamie is spotlighted next to Dominic, so you should be able to see her. Should you need her services, please just message Colin in the chat and he will make sure that you get put in a breakout room with either of those ladies if you need them. We also are debuting some exciting new technology with World Speaks today. We will have 3 Spanish interpreters on this call as well. So same things goes. If you need their services, please let us know. Cruz, Paula, and Leah are the 3 that will be providing Spanish translation. I think that's it. I'm gonna go back to you, Dominic.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Candace. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Krystal, who will be our moderator for tonight's conversation, and will introduce our 3 amazing panelists. Krystal.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for the intro, Dominic and Candace. My name is Krystal Vuong Wegner. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And as they said, tonight's conversation continues our AAPI series and focuses on dispelling the model minority myth and explores more diverse Asian American voices and stories. So with that, I want to welcome our panelists tonight. We have Caleb Rohrer, Dr. Yoon Saksena, and Yogendra Pant. Thank you all for being here. And because we kind of have a full agenda tonight, I am just going to let you all give us a brief introduction about yourself and to dive right in and just let us know what you would want to tell everyone here tonight about your cultural heritage and your lived experience. So Caleb, we'll start with you, and then Yoon will go next to you, and Yogendra after.
Hello, everybody. My name is Caleb Rohrer. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a half Taiwanese, half German American. I was born in Canton, Ohio. Then I moved and I lived in Taiwan for 3 years at the Risan Seminary, which serves Aboriginal students in Taiwan. And then we moved back to Iowa, and then I came to Nebraska for college.
Hey, hi, everyone. Yeah, so I actually have a last name that's Indian, but if you can hear my accent, I still have one, and you all do. You don't have to guess. It's Australian. So I grew up in Australia, and then people ask me, where am I from? I'm from Australia. I'm from the South, so I'm actually from Melbourne. And then you get the question where you're really from, right? So really, I'm from there. Although I was born in England, in London. My parents moved around a bit, but I'm first generation Australian, and then I moved to the US for my education. I'm internationally educated in Australia, and then I came here for postdoc. You know, I'm a dentist. I specialized in the US on the East Coast, actually. And then I'm in academia. I have been for decades, actually. And I have 3 children who are mixed race. My husband is a quarter Indian, hence the last name. So yeah, I guess I identify as Australian more than anything else, but Asian as well. And genetically, I will tell people, genetically, I'm 100% Chinese. Thanks.
My name is Yogendra. Almost half of life I spent in Nepal. I was born in Western Nepal and I work over there, working international agency, International Labor Organization, and DANIRA. That is called DANIS, like the USA ID, like DANIRA. And finally, I moved from Nepal to United States. And I started almost, when I come here and I started my education again, and I went to Valley University and I did my master in clinical counseling. And I'm working in mental health as a practitioner. I'm working with the refugee and all the world. So I am still, because of the most of my life spending, Nepal is a small country. It is between China and India. So almost 15 years I'm been in the United States.
Thank you, everyone. So as you can all see, we have an incredibly diverse panel here. And again, I thank you for your time. So just to dive into the topic that we are here to discuss, I'm kind of curious to see in the room today who has heard about the model minority myth. Raise hands. For the people who are off screen, I'm going to assume that some of you may know. I confess that I had heard of the term, but I did not know quite very much about it until these last couple of years. And if we are just going to dive into it, if you would allow me, I'm just going to briefly go over what the model minority myth is for anyone who has not heard of it or isn't familiar. So the phrase model minority was first used in 1966 by a sociologist, William Peterson, who wrote for the New York Times about the success of the Japanese people in overcoming the effects of hardship, oppression, and discrimination, like their time in the internment camps, and how they achieved success in the country, in the US, because of their family structures and cultural emphasis on hard work. So since then, the model minority myth has become a well-worn trope. It's now everywhere, and it posits that Asian Americans are all educated, law-abiding, hardworking, and have high incomes, low crime rates, and close family ties. This stereotype broadly implies that Asian Americans are therefore not underprivileged racial ethnic minorities due to their economic success compared with other racial and ethnic groups. This obviously is a flawed stereotype, and it's harmful in 2 ways. It's harmful because it fails to recognize the rich differences of the Asian diaspora based upon language, cultural heritage, national origin, and religion, and it erases the struggles and complexity of the Asian American experience. Because it's indiscriminately applied to all Asian subgroups, it overstates the success of Asian Americans in terms of their resiliency, their health, and their wisdom and wealth, and it flattens our experiences and also perpetually marks us as the other. Another way it's harmful is it's used to make unfair comparisons, pitting Asian Americans against other communities of color. And it's been weaponized throughout history, denying institutional racism, particularly in the 60s when Black people were fighting for meaningful inclusion in our democracy during the civil rights movement. And again, it erases the identities of Asian people, as well as the deep discrimination that has been experienced by many Asians, immigrants and their descendants in the US. So to our panel today, I wanted to ask, how has the model minorities myth affected you? And how do you envision a different way to be Asian American other than emulating or being reactionary to it?
I can go first. I've been in this country since the mid-90s, and I haven't got US citizenship, but I can still relate to this because this model minority myth is not just Asian American, it's Asian Australian, Asian Canadian, Asian other things as well. So when I was growing up, I was constantly reminded about the sacrifices of my ancestors and parents so I could have a better life. And this is another part of this model minority thing, that we've got to be, we're representing our race, we're representing our family, our ancestors, and we can't bring shame to the family name. So, therefore there was no room for mistakes. I had to be the best I could be and represent my family, the race, so much weight, right? And then so to be the model minority person thing, then I couldn't make waves. I was told, you don't need help. No, you should be good at this and that and all the expectations of the family. So you shouldn't, just get through life, just get through, don't cause any waves, don't cause any commotion, just play it safe, don't take any risks. And that's part of this model minority thing, that in a particular culture, then if you do speak up in some countries, you might be shot, you might be imprisoned, right? So there's some other things going on there. And then, so unfortunately, my behavior reinforced this model minority thing because I was just drifting through, trying to not cause any waves and not draw my attention to myself, just to blend in. And I think part of dismantling this is that we need to think about, as Asians and other people too, that we need to be real to ourselves and to accept that we have weaknesses and know it's okay. And then to admit that we need help sometimes and ask for it, and to advocate for ourselves and for each other. And then a lot of times we sometimes maybe we're self-perpetuating this model minority thing too. And part of that is that you've got to be thinking about being real for who you are and being authentic, to follow your heart and your interests, and rather than always just staying safe. We're supposed to be law-abiding and respectful, and live up to all these expectations of society for us too. So, there are two sides of this model minority thing. There's things that have been leveled on us, but then also there's some other cultural things because of that we do want to be successful. We do want to be good citizens, right? And then it's just harder having to sometimes speak up, maybe against society or family and friends. And for other people to help us debunk this is really learn about us, about minorities, our stories, our different experiences and struggles, that there are, you'll learn later on that there's such disparity that, we're not all educated, we're not all this, we're not all that, right? And learn from reliable sources. And it's okay to ask questions, out of curiosity, read, think about documentaries, and try to understand different perspectives. So then you can kind of realize the truth behind things, and rather than generalizing, and that will help us debunk some of these myths.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm finding that even now I'm out of my comfort zone, right? Putting ourselves kind of in the center of the conversation and elevating our stories. It's something that, particularly growing up, I was also, taught to be in the background and to keep my head down and work hard. So Caleb, Yogendra, I'd love to hear from you too.
You can go first, sir.
Okay. I have a experience, when you come, I think you all must come at a young age. I'm just, when I came here, I have 37 years old, and with come different action, heavy action English. And it is started sometime, when we said that when we were in Nepal, something, yeah, you are going, that is the heaven, dream country. Everybody want to go there. When I work there, And a lot of people, even I have a, working with the globally that time, because of I already been Europe, and I spent Denmark for my study, non-profit management. And when I come here, when I started job, even one cashier, beginning of the time, why Asian people in come to work? We have a lot of people not getting job, and it started bitter experience. Then after I went to buy the car, and I went there, and almost a used car, $10,000. And when I just drive and half hour, the car is a little bit something broken, and I took the car back. Hey, you need to fix this car. You just, what is I don't want. Then the owner of, in Omaha, that's happened, owner of, that's, I don't want Asian yellow people. Get out of my area, get out that. And that was a bitter. And I think that this is the human right, everything. When I used to work, everything there, we give the example, why they are doing. And I work already, as a human right. And I said that when you come this country, maybe you come to generation, 3 generation, you claim that, but you are not only, I came just right now, but I came legally. If you said that, I have to go and complain because of you are a business. Here you are open business. You have to shut down your business, and you write I don't wanna, what is your legal, there, I don't wanna this, other people, Asian people, right? Then a lot of other people, then he know that because of I have a different action and not speaking. He said that's then when I started to speak, then I will go complain and city council, and then I will go, what is the get demand? Then he a little bit, and he start come. Then after he fixed that, that's because of I have the voice already. I worked there, human rights activist when I was there, and then that's the happen. And when I started UNMC, and we have a UNMC, that the social work department, Munro Meyer. So because we are all the time, heavy action, but one girl, she came from, and she was, I think 5 or 6 years, he's grown up, and she also working as a residency or an internship, Munro Meyer, then working. They don't like, some people, even they are professional, they don't like our name because of the, I don't know why they don't like. Some people are very good there too. Some people, they don't like us. And we met all the time when I started there. One client came, and we started in the number, and I play therapy, working. And she said that we don't see, I'm counting numbers. She said that we don't say 0, we say O, but I can't talk that, arguing with the client. Then after my clinical supervisor, she said that, Yogendra, you are right. She's teaching with you, but because of you have a heavy action, and maybe you have a different here, but you are right. Because of the number, 0 is the number, O is the alphabet. You are right. That's happened, and we have also that problem. I know, but here is a lot of the system there, but sometimes there are, people from outsider, people from Asian, they don't pay the tax. You don't pay because of I came here as a cultural immigrant visa, and they say that when I started job, why you got this Asian? You just come, you get this job, and that's happened. But if we are aware about that, then we can but the rule of the law, we have to always there, but sometimes we need to, save. Because of a lot of people, they have a different attitude. We don't do all the people, all the white people, all these people, that is the stereotype of the people. Because every people have their perception because of something is happened. They have their label. Some people they jealous because of these people are smart. They take our job. Some people nice, working a lot of the. So how we have meet those people, but still after the pandemic, the situation is going on. Some people, they have crazy things is going on because of the Asian people bring the COVID-19, COVID-19. Because of the one today, I have also discussed one my staff, her family was, she's from Burma, she's from Chechen, and the beaten and stabbed the knife, and family member when they went to the store in Texas because of these people brought, Asian people brought to the COVID. So that is going on, but the problem is how do we, almost here, I know a lot of the, even 22 million Asian people, something is the data so that more than 50%, they are bachelor degree, even that is the percentage is higher than white communities. Right. Health condition, better, good condition, even Asian American, the income also good, and a lot of the, technical, but they are not executive level is only 2%.
Right.
Yeah, Asian American, but other job is they have, doing great, a lot of the, they are doing, but we need to also we have not only Asian, because we have a broader mind. When I used to in Nepal, I have nothing that, because of we help humanitarian, we help people who need the people. Not I am global man, I'm that, view, internationalism. When I came here, United States is still Hispanic, they live one place, Latino, they live one place, they have one. And people from, Asia, even people from Asian country, they have a different, even from China, from India, from Pakistan, they have a small group. So there is a very hard to melting each other. But I think it will be takes maybe first generation, second generation. It takes long time, it takes time.
Yogendra, I think you describe kind of that fine balance that we have to learn, right, from the immigrant experience and the first generation, second generation that we have here. So thank you for that. And we are going to, Yogendra did briefly mention kind of some of the diversity that we had mentioned about the API, like the 22 million AAPI population that we have here in America and how that is broken out. Caleb, I want to give you a chance to talk before we go into that, because we are already at 6:35, so we're going to be heading into breakout rooms soon.
So I realized that in my introduction, I forgot to say where I work. I'm the secretary of the Nebraska Democratic Party, and I'm also a staffer doing rural organizing for them as well, with other committee appointments with AAPI caucus at the National Young Democrats level, et cetera. Just to give context to, kind of where I come from when I engage my cultural and ethnic background and my, American citizenship and my father's cultural and ethnic background. So when we're talking about ways to basically exist or to live and take space without really trying to engage with the model minority myth, whether that's being reactionary and rejecting it or emulating it, we have to realize that a lot of the stereotypes that we hear about, oh, Asians are, they don't stick up, they are quiet, they are hardworking, they bear down, they keep their head down. That may be true of certain groups of Asians that came over, especially with specific backgrounds and geopolitical scenarios they were escaping. But there's a very long history of, civic engagement in Asia. It's not the truth at all that Asians are quiet, hardworking, submissive people. There's a very long history of civic engagement, even before the advent of democracy in Sri Lanka in 1926, which was the first constitutional democracy there. But what we can do to live our lives without necessarily getting wrapped up in this, in the model minority myth, is to be ourselves and to be out there. We don't want to hide from people anymore, and we don't want to pretend like, oh, I'm just this quiet Asian guy that sits in the corner and I study and I do math and stuff like that, because I'm awful at all of that stuff. But there are there are concrete steps that we can take to try to kind of move the needle on this. And from my background, civic engagement is one of these critical key components of dismantling the model minority myth. This last year, we had a record number of AAPI candidates that ran for state legislatures. 158 ran in 30 different states, a lot of them with really good success. In the Midwest and the West Coast, most of them were from California, New York, and Hawaii, but they did run in 30 states across the country. And being in those spaces allows us to have a voice and have a seat at the table, especially when it comes to addressing legislation that is harmful to our communities, and also for promoting legislation that is helpful to our communities, in particular, things like Illinois' House Bill 376, sponsored by Jennifer Gershowitz this last year, also known as the TEACH Act, which requires, starting next academic calendar, for Illinois public schools to include an Asian history component in their education. That would never have happened without Jennifer Gershwitz's seat in the Illinois State House that she won in 2018. And we are seeing more Asians vote. This is the first time the Asian vote in America has broken 50% ever. And it's only getting better. And it's, we're getting more entrenched in the systems of power and the institutions that we need to be present in to really be able to affect the course of our own lives here. And I think that's one of the key components moving forward.
Thank you. What were your thoughts on kind of the increased civic engagement this year after the events in March? I felt like there was an explosion of activity and engagement. I was able to get my older generation of family members to, kind of start discussing the model minority myth and the problems that we have faced over, the years and the discrimination that, they have faced. Are you finding also that that's been encouraging, and is this going to be ongoing? Is this going to be a movement and not just a moment?
I definitely believe it is. I'm not sure if this was directed at everyone or my field in particular, but there is more awareness now. And it was strange. I'm one of only 2 county chairs in the Democratic Party in Nebraska that is Asian, the other one being Chair Chung from Lincoln. And there's a lot more space for us now. People didn't really listen to or include AAPI people in the rooms. They didn't think of Asians when they thought of diversity and inclusion in political spheres. And now it's almost kind of sad that people had to die as a result of racism and xenophobia for us to be respected. You shouldn't have to watch your relatives and your friends die to be given a voice and given a seat at the table. But we are now, and I don't see that going back. Asian people, or particularly young Asian people, are organizing into, you know, subcommittees and organizations within these power structures now, and becoming really entrenched in a way that will be more difficult to ignore us again, so that we don't disappear when we are no longer in the spotlight nationally.
I also want to add from the education side of things, because I'm in education at UNMC College of Dentistry in Lincoln, actually, you know, that, you know, when people count the diversity numbers for students and for faculty and staff, then they concentrate on underrepresented minorities. And when you think about the federal funding, they think about URMs, which, you know, is Black, Hispanics. It doesn't count Asians, okay? And then, so it's interesting, I moved from the East Coast, and when I come to Nebraska, I'm thinking, whoa, I'm like really minority, like this is really different. And then I was really upset when I realized, when they're counting, oh, how's our admissions doing? And they weren't looking at Asians. And then when they lump people together, like when you think about model minority and then conglomerating all Asians and generalizing about us, then I think it's really unfair to the students who are refugees, the students, the families who left everything, who don't have a chance unless you did something to level the playing field. But they're discounted because they don't count them, number one. And then when it comes to funding, and we need the leaders, you know, as previously expressed, that are making these decisions and helping everyone here, rather than just assuming, oh, you're educated, you've got it good, it comes easy to you, because obviously it comes easy to your race because you're all educated. It's like, no, we work hard, we struggle, we have learning disabilities too.
Yes, absolutely. We have one more minute, and I want to pose this one question. What is your hope for the community moving forward?
I think we need to also work together and lobbying and advocacy. I am also agree we need to also politically also intervene. We go to the political forum and also social forum, and that's also good in our generation. When we come, hey, we need to work, we need to participate, and also we need to aware about our community.
You, Caleb?
My hopes for the AAPI community moving forward, like API community, is partially political, because that's my job. This is kind of what I do. I do want to see I want to see an AAPI caucus in both parties in all 50 states. That's one very concrete thing that I definitely want to see. And I also want to see the AAPI community really, as we grow, wrestle with the way that we have interacted with other communities of color in the country, and the way, and acknowledge the way that we have been intentionally pitted against each other by the stereotype. The stereotype is not meant to uplift Asians. The stereotype is meant to put down Black and brown Americans. That's just, full stop what it is. And really grapple with that, and grow together and combine our communities with all these other very diverse communities, not just in the AAPI umbrella, but with all communities of color and the white community in America.
I agree with Caleb. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's not minorities against minorities. We have these common experiences where we've been ostracized, when we've been put down, when disadvantaged. We all have that, to come together and be allies for each other. The other thing that some non-Asians might not know is some Asian countries or cultures are against the other Asian things. I mean, I think about my background, where I'm sure my parents would have been mortified if I dated anyone Japanese, because Japan invaded China, things like that. And it's like, I don't mean problem with Japanese, people, but that mentality is still out there in some generations, in some circles. And so I think it's important for all minorities to recognize the differences, but also the common ground and the similarities. and then that we all struggle. We're not better than you, no one's better than each other, that we're all different, and to embrace that difference, understand it, and to work better together.
Thank you all. Dominic, this is never long enough. I'm going to pass this on to Candace for our breakout rooms. I look forward to more discussion in those, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So before we send you out to your breakout rooms, we just have a few things I want to remind you of. Please just be respectful, lead into the curiosity, and have an open mind while you are in these rooms with other attendees having some discussion. So I hope you all have a great discussion. Welcome back. I hope you had some fruitful conversations in your rooms. We would love to hear from you. So Tina, in your group, who would like to share out?
Sharon is our sharing person. So thank you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you. We had some very productive sharing conversations with each other. And we talked about the two different questions. First, what stood out or surprised you? There were a couple different things that we talked about. Underrepresented minorities that was discussed in the larger group before really should be examined through disaggregated data, because when we're all put together as one, we are not considered underrepresented in certain areas or fields, but we are considered underrepresented in other fields. So rather than just clumping everyone together, especially at the university setting, that should be disaggregated. Also, certain Asians are pitted against each other when we talk about that model minority, and there seems to be a kind of scale of certain Asians or might be better than other Asians, and discrimination occurs from our accents or our names that stood out from the larger group. And then that there are a large number of biracial AAPI members, and that's growing. And unfortunately, with a group that is biracial or multiracial, they have to prove their Asianness with persons who are Asian and persons who are not. So they sometimes are not included in either group, similar to what other racial groups talk about in being biracial. Some of the biggest takeaways: if there is value in talking about this and being part of this type of table talk, especially as we can relate to each other. It's great to hear from other diverse AAPI members, because for some of us, people didn't grow up with others nearby. So they kind of experience some of that alone. And it's important to seek out our tribe or our community, because there aren't many gatherings, even on the West Coast, as Nancy talked about. So you seek that out each other. It's important to work together, right? I hope I did our group justice here.
Thank you, Sharon. Emily, your group, who would like to share out a few nuggets from your conversation?
Janet was our designated speaker.
Right, Janet, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. We talked about quite a few things, but the thing that I'm thinking most of is we wanted to talk about what we can individually do to act for change and to be allies. I don't usually use that word. I like accomplices. But and we just said, like, there's opportunities every single day if you just open your eyes to that. And folks that look like me especially need to use our voices and our privilege and take action when we see something that we know is not the way to treat another human being, to speak up and say, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And this is why. So we talked a little bit about that. And also one of our members suggested that somewhere close to where she lives, I think she said an Asian man was walking and was attacked. And so she gave the example of even just anything like that. Any of your friends, if they want to go on a bike ride or take a walk, speak up and say, you know, I'm happy to go with you. And just so they know they're not alone.
Thank you, Janet and group. Well, thank you, all of you, for your discussion. I'm going to pass it back to Dominic. Kind of finish us out.
Awesome. Thanks, Candace. So because we do have some time, we would like to open up for some questions that you all might have to any of our panelists and Krystal as our moderator. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll take some time for this.
There were a couple
Go for it.
sources of material that I looked at that I thought was really interesting that I would like to share to the group, just for general informational purposes.
Yeah.
Candace, would you be able to share those 2 images that I sent to you that talks about, kind of gives like the main ethnicities that fall under the Asian American umbrella? Looks like this one. And
Yep.
then what the
Yep, I have them in slides. Yep. They were in the slides earlier too.
Oh, okay.
One quick second.
I just thought it was really interesting talking about aggregating and disaggregating data. This was really interesting to look at, to see how big AAPI label or the umbrella encompasses.
Hit the wrong button. Forgive me all. This one?
Yes. So you'll see here, 22 million people, Asian Americans live in America. Sorry, of those there are over, hold on a second, I'm sorry, I'm looking for my notes about this. I don't want to get this wrong. So Asian American population is the fastest growing racial ethnic group in the US, growing by 81% in the last 20 years. Record 22 million Asian Americans trace their roots to more than 20 countries in East and Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent. 10 different ethnic categories make up 1.5 million Pacific Islanders. Asians now make up about 7% of the overall population, and their numbers are projected to double by 2050. If you go on the next slide, AAPI are also the most economically divided racial or ethnic group, with both high income earners and those with lower economic opportunity. So you see here, among eligible Asian American voters, Indian Americans have the highest median household income of $139,000, while Burmese Americans have the lowest, around $47,000. And then also, as you can see here, 54% of Asian Americans over 25 have completed a bachelor's degree. But if we dig a little deeper, more than 70% of Indian Americans over 25 have completed a bachelor's degree, but that number plunges to less than 20% for Americans of Cambodian, Hmong, and Laotian descent. So it's just interesting to me that under this model minority myth, we are supposed to be the most successful racial ethnic minority, but if you disaggregate the data, it's more disparate than you would think. That's all I had to share. Thanks.
I'd like to talk about that disaggregation of data too. Like when we think about the deaths for COVID, then we recognize the effect it has on minorities, especially Blacks. But it's interesting, I read an article, I think it was New York Times or Washington Post, on one of those, where they looked at de-aggregated data for Asians in New York City. And the group that had the highest death rates were actually the Chinese. But you couldn't tell. And then when people say, "What are you? Where am I from?" and say, "Oh, I'm Chinese," they think they've got me figured out. Like, really? And then just when we look at the different ethnicities that are represented in the AAPI community, even in China alone, there's more than 300 languages spoken.
Mhm.
And then there are officially 56 recognized ethnic groups in China. And I think about my Indian friends, again, hundreds of languages and cultures, and the languages sometimes they're not even connected. At least for Chinese, you've got the written word that there have similarities, but in India, it's like they can't even read each other's scripts. So it's that different. Religious, there's so many things. There's so many layers and complexities.
Thanks, Yoon.
Nepal also have a lot of the diversity people. A lot of the I think it's more than we have 106. Even a small country. So we cannot generalize, even when we go to the micro level, when we go there are a lot of the difference. Even some Nepal, they have a close to all the culture with the Tibetan people, like the Tibetan in culture in south part, they are all the close to with India, and the hilly people have a different culture.
I suppose if not talking about diversity too, if other people don't have other questions, there's also a very broad range of geopolitical histories in Asia as well. And one thing that I don't think many people who just live in America think about a lot of the times is when we say we're not a monolith and there's over 260 different Asian ethnicities and backgrounds. Unfortunately, part of that is a result from Asian colonialism as well. So there's a component of these ethnic backgrounds that we also have to decolonize our own minds around, because, in my own home country of Taiwan, there are, I believe, 36 or 37 recognized Aboriginal tribes that were very brutally repressed under 40 years of martial law that we call the White Terror. And that was following the Chinese Civil War when Chiang Kai-shek's army came over, and it was brutal. They outlawed dozens of languages. They almost completely economically destroyed many of these different tribes. And it's only in recent years that, our unicameral, in which Taiwan is also a unicameral, which is interesting in Nebraska. But we now allow every tribe has a designated seat in the unicameral that is protected. And that's only a very recent thing. And, we have a lot of work to do there as well. And so I think the Asian Americans here in the United States really have to think about where we come from and how we have engaged with indigenous populations in our own home countries, and really be an ally to Native Americans here in the United States as well, and also to pay attention to the indigenous civil rights in Asia still.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Caleb, Yoon, and Yogendra for being on our panel today. And thank you, Krystal, for being our moderator for this discussion. As Candace just posted in the chat, excuse me, is our link to our evaluation page. And so, like I said before, we'd love to get some feedback from you all on ways that we can grow, get better, what you would also like to hear. All of that is in the evaluation page. As far as what's next for us, if you are a staff member or a student or faculty at UNO and interested in joining our UNO dialogue tomorrow afternoon, that'll be on healthy relationships. And then our next Omaha Table Talk is on October 19th at 11:30 a.m. So it's over the lunch hour there. And we're going to be discussing youth justice reform. So that is a link that's also in the chat on how to register for that conversation. If there's nothing else, we will see you all next time at our next Omaha Table Talk. Thank you all for joining.